morning to everyone who's joining us for this webinar today. Welcome to our webinar series, and today we are looking at turning drone imagery to geospatial intelligence. My name is Evelyn Lele. I work with the solutions team here at Esri Eastern Africa, and I'll be taking you through today's session. So the session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, that is Esri Eastern Africa. In case you have any questions in the course of this webinar, feel free to use the chat section. Our team is on standby and they'll actually engage and answer some of the questions that you'll be having during this session. We will also have a session at the end where we're going to have you unmute and ask your questions. So once again, welcome to today's session on turning drone imagery to geospatial intelligence. So drone imagery is actually widely being adopted by various organizations and for various applications. And with the high increase for use of drone imagery, today we just want to look at how you can be able to turn your drone imagery into geospatial intelligence. And so today we just want to see how exactly can you be able to generate insights from the drone imagery. And allow me mention that the Esri GIS platform is actually an intelligent GIS system or a GIS platform, which enables you to understand complexities in your data, enables you to understand trends and patterns, and ultimately give you insights that you need for decision making. And that's why today we are talking about turning drone imagery to geospatial intelligence. So drones actually fill a very critical data gap. So drones actually fill a very critical data gap. And as I mentioned, there's increasing adoption and actually use of drones. So with the growing need for imagery, and we're not just talking about imagery, but we're talking about imagery with a high spatial resolution as well as spectral resolution. And of course, also with the temporal resolution. So over time, organizations and users in the different fields actually need imagery that is clear enough to accurately make out details. And of course, this imagery should also be recent enough to be useful. That's why we are talking about the temporal resolution, very recent enough for them to be able to make informed decisions from this imagery. So if you compare satellite imagery and aerial imagery, drones have significantly reduced the cost of acquisition for data. And of course, with the drones, you cannot be able to capture very high resolution imagery more quickly and as frequently as you may wish. Of course, there may be some trade-offs in terms of the scale, because again, with the drones, you're able to capture maybe a smaller scale compared to what you get from aerial and satellite imagery. But again, this gives organizations the ability to capture imagery at a scale that wasn't financially feasible before. So definitely drones are very, very important. So we're just talking about the importance of drones. And of course, you're all joining us from different places, from different organizations, and I'm sure that you're using drone imagery in various fields, in various applications. So if you think about who actually is using drone imagery, like I'm thinking the use of drone imagery is actually unlimited. I've just highlighted some of them here. So you have different organizations, different agencies and people in different fields using drone imagery. If you think about people in the AEC industry, which is very close to my heart, that's architecture, engineering and construction, infrastructure. If you think about government agencies, if you think about forestry and agriculture, I think these are also one of the main users or consumers of drone imagery and even imagery generally. If you think about utilities, so really there are so many organizations and so many sectors that use drone imagery. We'll be looking at some of them. I just picked a few just for us to appreciate use of drone imagery within these particular sectors. And as I mentioned, AEC is really one of those industries famously known as architecture, engineering, and construction. So if we look at AEC, for example, I picked this. So we are seeing that we are having more of the AEC customers using drones throughout the project life cycle. And I'm sure that our users and the various people who are in this webinar today in the AEC industry can confirm these. So right from modeling site conditions during the planning and design phase, during the actual construction, monitoring the progress of the construction, quality control, and even after construction, where you're now looking at facility management and inspection. So really, the AEC industry is one of the main users of drone images. So that's one, the AEC industry is definitely one of the main users or consumers of drone imagery. Then we also have forestry and agriculture. I think I had alluded to this. So for users in the forestry and agricultural sector, they need drone imagery for different reasons, really. And I'll just be taking us through how you can actually be able to use this in this particular area. And I'm sure one of the indices that people in the forestry and agricultural sector would want to really focus on is the NDVI index, where they're looking at the health of the various vegetation, comparing the near-infrared bands and the red bands. And again, from these now, of course, there are unlimited applications, just looking at plant stress monitoring, drought assessment, detecting the presence of disease, nutrients, and weeds. Then you can even think of plant and tree classification. So definitely forestry and agriculture is one of the main application areas. And I'm sure our users who are in this particular webinar today can also confirm that. Then I wouldn't want to just finish up with the use cases without also mentioning one of the main application areas, and that's the utilities sector, right? From, if we're talking about electric utilities, for example, we have right from the transmission, the distribution to the substation level. Definitely drone imagery will come in very handy in just ensuring that inspection of the transmission line, the distribution line, and the substation is done well. And then, of course, there are also regular patrols that are done. So this makes it even more efficient for the teams that are doing patrols. So instead of having to manually send your crews to the field, you can actually make use of drones. Think about upgrades and maintenance for maybe substations and stuff like that. You can also make use of drone imagery. Then, of course, within the way leaves, you're looking at vegetation assessment, just seeing whether we have a lot of vegetation taking over the way leaves. So again, you can fly your drone, get the drone images, and just assess the vegetation that is encroaching into the way leaves, and if there's need for clearance and all that, that can be done. So again, definitely, utilities is one of the main areas where drone imagery is used quite often. And that's just to mention a few of the areas. Of course, we have unlimited applications. If we think about the humanitarian sector, of course, again, drone imagery is coming in handy, and the use of drone, just to mention but a few. So I just want us to look at the drone solutions that we have as Esri. So we have two main drone solutions. We have what we are calling the ArcGIS DronetoMap solution, as well as the ArcGIS Sitescan solution. So as Esri, we have these two main drone solutions. So ArcGIS DronetoMap is actually a desktop-based drone imagery processing solution. And with ArcGIS DronetoMap, it allows you to actually process the images, the drone images that have been captured. And then once you have processed those images, you can also do some quick analysis on the images. And the beauty with all our solutions is that they are well integrated within the platform. So our imagery, our drone solutions are actually well integrated within the platform. So you have this information can be shared directly to your ArcGIS Online account or your ArcGIS Enterprise account. So there's that integration within the platform. And then I also need to mention that in case you're working in a place where you do not have connectivity, it also allows you to process your images, your drone images offline, and then you can now come and do your analysis and any other thing that you want to do when you're back, when you have connectivity. So that's one, that's the ArcGIS DronetoMap application. Then we also have the ArcGIS Sitescan application, which is purely cloud-based. So it allows you, it's actually an end-to-end solution that allows you to process your images, do analysis, management, and all that within the cloud. And so I'll just be going through each of these just to give us more deeper insights on what we are talking about. So the first one that I want us to look at is the ArcGIS Sitescan. I've already mentioned that this is a cloud-based drone solution. We call it software as a service. So Sitescan actually provides, it's an end-to-end solution. So it allows you to do flight planning, allows you to do fleet management, And then now you can go ahead after capturing your images, you can now go ahead and do image processing as well as analysis capabilities. And it has two main components. And the first component is what we are calling the Sitescan flight planning and control application. This is mainly for before you do your flight planning and capture your images. And then we have what we are calling the Sitescan manager. So with the Sitescan manager now, this allows you to now process your images, manage the drone images that you have collected, as well as analyze the drone imagery. So we have those two components. We have the Sitescan flight planning and control application, as well as the Sitescan manager. So that's the ArcGIS Sitescan, the end-to-end cloud solution that we have as Esri. Then the other solution that we have, of course, is the ArcGIS DronetoMap that I had already talked about, which is a desktop application that allows you to turn raw imagery captured from drones into valuable information products. And as I mentioned, we just want to see how exactly can we derive insight, or what we are calling geospatial intelligence, from drone imagery. So DronetoMap allows you to do that. And the beauty is that you can also be able to create both 2D and 3D imagery products for the different applications. Again, depending on the field where you're in, you may be able, you'll actually get both the 2D and the 3D imagery products from this. So looking at this now, so the workflow is actually quite simple. So we have the geolocated images that have been captured using your drones. Then of course we have the key points and the matches. Then you're able to process that information or process the drone imagery and get GIS ready products. And as I have mentioned, these products can either be the 2D product or the 3D drone imagery products. So in terms of the workflows, we have a number of workflows for both the 2D and the 3D products. And I need to mention that we have a number of templates. We'll be looking at that as we go into our demonstration shortly. So we have the 2D mapping template that allows you to generate 2D products such as mosaics and surface models, like the digital surface models or the digital terrain models. And we also have templates for this. And then we also have the 3D mapping workflows, which allows you to generate 3D products. Here we're talking about generating the 3D point clouds, as well as the 3D textured meshes. And we also have the inspection template that allows you to do inspection of the various assets. And again, a good application here, as I have mentioned, is the utilities segment or the utilities sector. So again, depending on the workflow that you're looking at, some of the output that you're getting could be for visualization, others could be for analysis. So again, it depends with your application area and what exactly you want to use the drone imagery for. So in terms of the 2D mapping workflows, now looking at the templates that you have, so you're able to convert 2D data, you're able to convert raw drone imagery and create 2D data, which could be geo-referenced, high resolution, automosaic. And then for the templates, we have two types of templates. We have the 2D rapid template and we have the 2D full template. So the 2D full template gives you the ability to even work with multispectral imagery. And here you can now work with different indices such as NDVI for analysis. And then of course, we have different models that are generated for visualization as well as analysis, including the surface models and the digital terrain models. Then for the 3D workflows, sorry for that. So for the 3D workflows, we also have the 3D point clouds as well as the 3D textured meshes. So depending on what you're looking at, you can actually be able to make use of the various templates that we have. So that's a quick highlight in terms of the drone solutions that we have within the Esri platform. So I'm going to now take us through a demonstration where we are now going to look at some of the things that I have mentioned, how you can be able to how you can actually be able to process the obtained imagery, and how you can actually do analysis and make sense out of the drone imagery that you have captured. So we are going to go into a demonstration session where I'm going to show you how to process the images, how to do some analysis with the imagery that you have, and how you can even share that information with other members within your organization. So just allow me to stop sharing my screen, then I can now share my application screen. So for this particular one, I'm mainly gonna focus on ArcGIS DronetoMap, the desktop drone application or the drone solution that we have. I hope everyone can see my DronetoMap screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen. You can type on the chat to just see. Are you able to see my screen?
See it.
All right, thank you very much. I think you can confirm that you are able to see my screen. So this is ArcGIS DronetoMap. This is the interface when you load your ArcGIS DronetoMap screen. And I mentioned that ArcGIS DronetoMap comes with various project templates, and the project templates allow you to create various images. So you can see that we have the 2D template, and I mentioned that for the 2D template, we have two types of templates. We have the 2D rapid template. So with the 2D rapid template, this allows you to create 2D products such as orthomosaics and elevation models. And then we have the 2D full template. So in addition to the georeference high resolution orthomosaic that you can generate, you're also able to create elevation models and make use of multispectral imagery. So that's what the 2D full template gives you. And again, for both of them, in terms of the output, the 2D full template gives you higher resolution output compared to the 2D rapid template. Again, for the rapid one, it means that you will have less time, less processing time. For the full 2D full template, you'll have more processing time because of the quality or the resolution of the output. Then apart from the 2D template, you have the 3D mapping template. So with the 3D mapping template, as I had already mentioned, you're able to generate the 3D output from your drone imagery, which includes 3D point clouds and 3D textured meshes, as well as a 3D PDF if you want to have your output in the form of a PDF. Then we also have the inspection template. So with the inspection template, you can quickly use the image viewer and annotate images and use these mostly for inspection again. And then we also have the batch processing template. So assuming you're working on multiple projects and you want to process this project simultaneously or in sequence, you can make use of the batch processing template. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to pick one of the templates. Let me pick the 2D full template, and then I can go ahead and create my project. So for this particular one, let me call it webinar 2D demo. Then, so I've indicated the name of the project. Then I have sample drone imagery that I want us to use for the purpose of this demonstration. So I'm going to browse to the location where I have my drone images. So under my drive D, I have drone images. So I can just go ahead and select the folder that has the images that I need. Then I can now go ahead and add the images. All right, so I have sample images here. Okay, just give me a minute. So again, this particular drone solution application allows you to work with the images in different formats. You can work with JPEG, like you can see I have .jpeg here. You can also work with .tif, so you can work with that. So once I have selected the images, you can see the image count. I have about 240 images for this particular area. So again, depending on, you can work with as many images as you want. But the difference would be if you have fewer images, of course, the processing speed will be faster. If you have more images, it means that you'll have more processing time, or rather it will take more time to process. So I can go ahead and create my project. So I think this shouldn't take a while because there are fewer images, about around 240 images for my project site. So it's loading the images. Let's give it a few seconds. All right, we are almost there. Very good. So we have our images loaded, and you can quickly see that the blue points are actually showing the images that were captured. And if I click on the point, you can actually preview the images on the image viewer. So you can actually preview the images that we have right here on the image viewer. And suppose maybe you have noted something in a particular image again, from the image viewer, you can quickly annotate the images. So maybe if you've noted something, you captured the images and there's an image that was of interest to you, you can quickly annotate the images. You can always maybe just draw a polygon around a feature of interest within the image and add text. So you can always preview the imagery information. And then the other thing I need to mention, so of course the blue dots are representing the images, and I think that's orange is just showing the flight path that was taken by the drone when capturing these images. So you can go ahead and just look at the properties of the images, go to the image source, and you can actually be able to see the properties of the image. You may want to look at the spatial reference of the image and all that. So you can always check out the properties of the image. So maybe just to give us a better context, I'm going to just switch to, I'm just going to load a base map, a different base map. Let me try the imagery base map. So again, the base maps are part of the Esri platform. So you can always switch between the different base information or the different base layers. So you can actually see I've turned on my imagery base map, and you can see, you can better now see my project area where these particular images were captured. So again, the other thing is that maybe in case you want to use control points for your data, this particular imagery solution, the drone imagery solution, DronetoMap, allows you to do that. So, and the flight data, you can always import control points or GPS sources. So if you have control points, maybe in a CSV, you can always use your control points. Again, the other thing that I need to mention is that you can also export GPS points from the data that you have collected, from the drone data that you have collected. Right here also within the flight data, you can remove images that maybe you do not need, or you can add additional images. You can also preview the images in the image table. So at least we now have the images. So the next thing that I'm going to show us how to do is now how to process this imagery so that we can get the various outputs. So back to my home tab, we have the processing options here. So under the processing options, again, for the different templates, you always get different outputs. So for the 2D templates, you're able to generate high resolution orthomosaics, you're able to generate digital surface models, and with the surface models, you can also create contours and determine the contour intervals, as well as the digital terrain model, also with the contours and the contour intervals. And the beauty with this also is that you're able to export this information in the form of a shapefile. So for the specific products that you're interested in creating, just check or select the product that you're interested in creating. So for example, if you want to process 2D orthomosaics, I'll simply click on the orthomosaic product. So you can always select that. If I want maybe to create a surface model, including the contours, I can always do that. So once I'm done, I click apply, then I click OK. So once that is done, I can now go ahead and start processing. So notice again that on this right side of my screen, the processing bit shows that it's at 0%. So as soon as I begin processing my imagery, you can actually be able to see the progress of what is being processed till it's 100%. So in the interest of time, I'll not be able to process all my images within this 1 hour for the webinar. So I had already processed my images, and so I'm just going to load the already processed images just for you to appreciate. But at least I wanted to just take you through the process of how to actually set the parameters and process your images. So once you have set your parameters, you can just go ahead and click start processing, and your images will process and you'll be able to see the output over here. So in the interest of time, I'll just go ahead and open already existing project and just show you the sample output that you get after processing your images. So let's give it another few seconds as it loads. And the beauty also is that you're able to get the processing report as well as the log. So the project area that I just showed you is actually a dam, and you can see this is already this. Let me just load the images for you to appreciate what we had before and what we have right now. So you can actually see this was our project site, and we have generated output from that, from the images that we have. So I mentioned we have, for the 2D template, you can create orthomosaic surface models as well as terrain models. So for this particular one, this is an orthomosaic. the project area. Again, just to give it some context, I can always load the base map just for you to see the context of where our project is. I think imagery base map will do better. All right, so you can actually be able to see where exactly this product is. So this is an orthomosaic, and again, this is RGB imagery. So you have one of the products being the orthomosaic, and you can actually go ahead and just select it and go to the imagery properties and just go to source and see the band metadata. As I mentioned, this is RGB, so you can see from the band metadata. You can see also from the raster information, the resolution of the imagery, and so on and so forth. So you can actually be able to see the imagery information from that. So apart from generating the orthomosaic, also you can be able to generate the surface model. So let me turn off the georeference orthomosaic and just turn on the digital surface model. So you can be able to generate multiple projects. So this is my sample digital surface model that I generated, and you can see here the elevation information. So from the digital surface model, you can now go ahead and do further analysis within DronetoMap. So simply come to the analysis tab here, and you can do mensuration. So for instance, if you want to calculate distances, I'll simply come here, click on the distance tool, then I can always calculate the distance, pick my start and end point, and it automatically calculates the distance for me. Similar to the area, you can always come and calculate the area. Yes, it automatically calculates the area for you. You can also do that for the volume. If you want to calculate the volume, you can do that. Let me try that again. Oh yeah, it's right there. So you can actually see the volume, the cut and fill in cubic meters. So you can quickly just do some analysis on your data and derive some insight. Apart from the mensuration where you're doing the measurements, you can also go ahead and calculate the profiles. So we have the elevation profiles as well as the spectral profiles. So for instance, if I want to just generate the profiles, I can always click on the elevation profile. And then it just shows me roughly what the profile looks like. I think for some reason I had too many layers, but that's just an overview of what you actually get. So you can always generate the profile, both the elevation profiles as well as the spectral profiles. So again, you can generate and do as much analysis on your data as possible. So the other bit that I mentioned is that when working with this drone solution, you also have the ability to generate reports and the logs. So once you have finished processing your information, the log information will actually be available. So just come to the log bit here, and you're able to see the information, the log information, the processing log information, and you're also able to see the report. Once the processing is complete, you're able to see the processing report. So just click on reports, and you're able to see the processing report, the summary of how much time it actually took to process your images, the area that was covered. You're able to just do some quality checks on your data. You can quickly preview your output, for instance, if it's the orthomosaic and the digital surface model. You're able to see report on the calibration details. You're able to see if there's any need for block adjustment details. You can see that. You can see the information about the internal camera parameters, and so on and so forth. So ideally, you're actually able to generate a full report of your processing workflow. So that's for the 2D output. Apart from that, also, it's important that when you're working on your data, you're able to share this information with other members of the organization. And as I mentioned, both our drone solution allows you, are actually integrated with the platform, and they allow you to connect to ArcGIS Online as well as ArcGIS Enterprise. So you can always share your information to either your ArcGIS Enterprise portal or to your ArcGIS Online. So for instance, if I want to share maybe the orthomosaic that I created, I'll simply select the output and then I come to share. Then there are various sharing options. So I can share these as a tile layer. So meaning that this will be a hosted tile layer within my ArcGIS Online. I can share this as a web map, or if you also want to share it manually, you can just export it as a PDF. So for this particular one, I'm just going to show you how you can share this. So for instance, I want to share it as a tile layer. So I just choose tile layer, and then the share section, the share pop-up window will actually be shown here. So here you can select the products that you want to publish to your ArcGIS Online account or your enterprise organization. So for instance, maybe it's the AutoMosaic that I want to share, and I'll simply come here and just give it a name, AutoMosaic. Then you can always determine the folder where you're sharing that and give it a description. This is a 2D AutoMosaic mosaic output, for example. Then within the platform, this allows you to determine how you're going to share your data. So you can share with everyone, meaning that once you provide the link, anyone can access your data or share with members within your organization. So again, maybe you're working on clients' data and you want to just process the images and share the output with them in the form of a link. So you simply just publish the information and then you're able to provide the link to them and they'll be able to see the output of the processing work that you have done. So that's on the 2D front, and that's on the RGB images. So I just want us to look at a sample of what you get actually when you're using multispectral imagery. So again, I'm just going to open one of my projects that has the multispectral imagery. So let's give it a few seconds also as it loads. All right, I think we're almost there. Let's give it a few more seconds. Very good. So I have sample images here. I have sample multispectral imagery for my project site. Let me just turn off what we have so that you're better able to appreciate. So for this particular one, we can always preview the images similar to what we had before. Just a minute. Okay, so I have these images for a particular site, and this particular image is actually multispectral imagery. So you can always come to the imagery properties and see what we have. So I was able to process these images similar to just what we did with the other data sets. So for this, you can be able to create the different products, and what multispectral imagery gives you is the ability to now use the different indices such as NDVI when you're working with multispectral imagery, and like what we had when you're working with the RGB images. So I already processed my images, and I'm just going to show you some of the outputs that we have. So I'm just going to turn that off and turn on my AutoMosaics, my already processed AutoMosaic. So I have processed AutoMosaic for a particular project area, as you can be able to see here. So I can now select I can now highlight, go to the AutoMosaic and just look at the properties. Again, look at the band metadata. We now have, since this is a multispectral imagery, we now have the near infrared band here. And then you can also see the raster information that we have here in terms of even the resolution of this particular drone imagery and the format. As I mentioned, this allows you to work with imagery in different formats. You can see this is a .tif. What we had initially was a JPEG, and so on and so forth. So you can always see the imagery information. So from the processed AutoMosaic, for example, you can now go ahead and do analysis. So again, with my AutoMosaic selected, I can come to the analysis tab and do analysis. But before we get there, you can also always switch between the different band combination. Like what you're seeing here is the natural color. So I can always switch also and just show the color infrared, which I think, yes, you can always switch between the different band combinations, both the color infrared and the natural color. Then you can go ahead and do analysis. So for this particular one, we can try one of the indices. We can try the NDVI index. So simply pick NDVI. So for NDVI, you're basically looking at, you're basically measuring the difference between the near infrared band. And we know that vegetation strongly reflects the near infrared band. So we're looking at the difference between the near infrared band and the red band. And of course, we're also aware that vegetation strongly absorbs the red band. So here you're going to pick the near infrared band, and then we have the red band, And then you can click OK, and just your NDVI is actually going to be, you get the results from your NDVI. I wanted to run this just for you to see, though I had it initially. I had already pre-processed that initially, but I thought it would just be good for you to also just see. It's not going to take a while. Very good. I think it's already processed. Just go back. Okay. Find it. Let me just try and turn that off. Turn off my VM as well. Just give me a minute. So I have my ortho mosaic. I'm just trying to figure out where my NDVI result is. You can just do that again. So we have the near infrared and the red band. So give it a few minutes. I'm seeing it added on this side. I'm just going to be sure that it is actually added. Just give it a few minutes. All right, very good. So it's actually here. So we have the NDVI output right here. So with this, then you can always just compare the results from your NDVI and the ortho mosaic that we actually had. So I'm just going to select this, then come to appearance. Then we can just do a quick swipe just to see what we have. So you can actually be able to swipe and just see the comparison between our ortho mosaic and the NDVI. So from the NDVI result, you can actually be able to see the areas where we have the red areas. These are mainly the areas that have a lot of vegetation, and that's actually true from our ortho mosaic. I'm sure by swiping you can be able to see that. So you can make use of the swipe tool as well as the flicker. Yeah, so you can also make use of the flicker tool. So apart from so that's it. So I can turn that off. Apart from that, you can also generate the other output. So apart from generating the ortho mosaic, you can also be able to generate the different products, such as the digital surface models, as well as the digital terrain models. And for each of these outputs, again, you can also be able to share that information. So for instance, I have our digital surface model here. Just as we did with the RGB image, you can go ahead and do analysis where you're doing mensuration. So again, you can be able to calculate the distances, just as we saw, the area and the volume, as well as generating the profiles, be they the elevation profiles, as well as the spectral profiles. That's the same thing also with the digital terrain model. So again, for each of these outputs, you can also share them to your ArcGIS Online organizational account or your ArcGIS Enterprise portal, where different users within your organization can actually be able to make use of the data sets that you have already processed. So again, similar to what we had for the RGB, you can simply just quickly look at the processing log. So you can actually see the processing log as well as the processing reports. So for each of the images that you have processed, you'll always get a processing report, the summary of how much time it took, the area covered, the average ground sampling distance, etc. You can preview the outputs and all that. So you can always get this from the processing report. So again, similar to the RGB, you can share this information either in the form of tile layer, web map, etc. to your ArcGIS Online account. And you can also just export and get these in the form of a PDF. So I think that's what I didn't show you in the RGB, so we can do it here. So you can always select the file type and the location where your output will be stored. So in case you're working on a report and you want to embed the output as part of your report, you can quickly do that. So that's for the 2D output. The other thing I'd want us to look at before we end this is sample 3D output. So again, I'm just going to open one of my projects that has the 3D output. So for the 3D output, the template allows you to generate 3D textured meshes as well as 3D point clouds. So we're just going to look at some of the outputs that you get. So I can just give it a few seconds as it loads. Awesome. So I have imagery for a particular project site. So again, you can always quickly preview your images just as we saw in the first demo. And then now with this, you have actually both the 2D and the 3D visualization within the same interface. So notice that the images before being processed, since we are generating a 3D product, we have it in the 2D template or the 2D interface. Then we have the 3D section that now shows you the actually processed 3D images. So you can work with both the 2D and the 3D layout within the same interface. That's definitely very awesome. So I have images for my project site. I think I can turn off the point clouds, then I just retain the 3D textured meshes for my area. Awesome, very good. So you can actually be able to see the sample images for my area, 3D images for my area. Variable that just zoom to left. Let's see what we have. So this is the 3D output for a particular project site. So with this now, assuming you're in the AEC industry or any other, even for urban planners who need to do renewal, you can always do 3D analyses. You can always use this for visualization and even use this as a basis for further work that you're actually doing. So that's the 3D textured meshes. And again, once you publish these textured meshes, you'll actually be able to see it as a 3D web scene within your ArcGIS Online or your ArcGIS Enterprise portal. Apart from the 3D textured mesh, I think we also mentioned that the other output that you get is the 3D point cloud. So you're also able to generate the point clouds. So maybe just to give you a context and just for you to better appreciate this in the processing options for the 3D product, notice that we have different formats. So for the 3D point cloud, you can either choose the output format. So the first one is the scene layer package, and then you can also choose LAS, which is also a very common data format, and all the other formats that you have here. So that's for the 3D point clouds. Also, when you come to the 3D textured meshes, you can either have these as a 3D scene layer package, like what I just used. And the beauty is you can always have the level of detail for the meshes in the different formats. For instance, the AutoCAD, DXF, the FBX, the PDF, and all that. So again, all our solutions, all our drone solutions are actually compliant to the OGC standard. So you do not have to be worried about interoperability in terms of getting the output that you have already processed within our platform to any other platform, or outputs that you have processed in other platforms to our platform. So we are actually OGC compliant, and most of the industry standards that I use are very interoperable with our platform. So when you're determining the processing options for the 3D template, you can get to choose the format in which you want your data to be generated in. So again, similar to the others, once you have finished processing your data, you can always share that information to your ArcGIS Online account or your enterprise portal. So I think before we finish, the other thing I just want to show us is now how you're able to see the published information. So again, just allow me to stop sharing my screen just one more time, share my ArcGIS Online screen. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me just try again. Just give me a minute. All right, almost there. So I'm just gonna share my screen again. Okay, so for you to sign into ArcGIS Online, simply go to your browser, go to arcgis.com, and I have my interface here. So I'm simply going to sign in to my ArcGIS Online account. Of course, I'll sign in with my username and my password. And then I'll be able to show you all the outputs that we have generated and shared them to our ArcGIS Online account. So under your content, you're able to see all the outputs, be they the 2D outputs or the 3D outputs that you have already created. So you can actually see that my outputs are here, whether we publish them as tile layers or 3D scene layer packages, you can be able to see all that within my ArcGIS Online account. So a good example is the auto mosaic that we generated. So in case you're working for some data, you're working on a project for a client and they need to see the output or the progress of the work you're doing, you can simply just share this link and then be able to access the information. So again, you can see the auto mosaic that I showed you here is available within our ArcGIS Online account. I also had that for the digital terrain model and the digital surface model. So you can actually be able to see the output is shared into my ArcGIS Online account. And all you need to do is just share the link and your client or whoever you're working with can be able to access that information. So that's for the 2D output. Then we also have the 3D output that I shared for our project area. And you can actually be able to see that we have the 3D output from processing our drone imagery right here. So I've quickly taken us through how you can make use of our drone solutions to turn your drone imagery into geospatial intelligence. So in case you need more information about the different things that we have talked about, I have also attached some resources here. So feel free to go to this particular site and access these resources. If you want to try out some of the drone solutions that I have already mentioned, you can quickly access it through these particular links. So I think in the interest of time, I want to stop there and just allow you to ask questions if your questions have not been responded to on the chat. Once again, thank you so much for finding time to join us for this particular webinar today. So I'm not sure if we have any questions or they have all been addressed in the chat.